All right, let me get that out of the way. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, for MCJ Report number 112. Let me know that you can hear the broadcast loud and clear. Welcome to MCJ Report. I'm your host, Morgan C. Jonas. It is Thursday. It's our last show for the week. That's right, MCJ Report running Monday through to Thursday. So I hope that everybody's having a good evening. Let me know that you can hear the broadcast loud and clear. I can see some of you tuned in right now on Facebook. So we're live on Facebook, YouTube, and on Rumble. So I see Megan, Sean, Ellie, Tracy, Mario, Angela, Jody. It's great to have you guys here. We have an interesting show in store for this evening. You see, there's a fair bit going on. So there's certainly no shortage in terms of content matter for this show. That's right. We're going to be analyzing the weekly Therapeutic Goods Administration COVID-19 safety report, and I'll be picking a lot of holes in this report. That's right. I am not satisfied by any stretch of the imagination in relation to the context of the report. I don't consider it to be a comprehensive report, and I'll explain to you exactly why I hold that particular position. We're also going to talk about a decision from the Fair Work Commission. There was a brilliant clip uploaded by Tanya Davies, who's a Liberal member in New South Wales. She broke it down perfectly. So I'm going to play that for you on the show. And we're also going to have a bit of a talk about informed consent and the notion of a clinical trial. You know that we play on the show quite regularly that clip of Greg Hunt clearly stating that the world is engaged in the largest clinical trial or something to that effect. Now, some people thought that he was just having a joke, but was he joking or was he serious? Well, there's some interesting references in this decision handed down by the Fair Work Commission, so I think you'll be very interested to hear more about it. Also, we're going to hear from Lisa Bentley. Lisa is a mental health expert of 20 years. She holds a bachelor's degree in applied social science, and she's actually starting her own show tomorrow that will be premiering at 12 p.m. She'll be having people on her show for essentially online counseling sessions because, of course, we have had a mental health crisis unleashed upon us. So it's great to see that Lisa is actually stepping up and do something about it, because it's something the government would much rather sweep under the rug. And I think we all know why. Also, we're going to speak about a new movement that is spearheading a nationwide strike for workers. And this is mostly in relation to the prospect of mandatory vaccinations and looming mandatory vaccinations. And also, independent media is on the rise. There's more and more content creators popping up every day. I was referred to an individual from Sydney that goes by the name of Rami, who is appearing to be covering protests. So I've got a short clip we're going to play that as well on the show. So we've got a pretty good show in store. So if you've just tuned in, welcome to the broadcast. It's MCJ Report 112. I'm your host, Morgan C. Jonas. Give the broadcast a like, give it a share, and let's get this show on the road, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? All right, now, looks like I have disappeared, so just give me a second and I will try and get myself back. Just bear with me, because I don't know exactly where I've gone. All right, where are we? All right, there I am. Yep, I am back. All right, so first of all, if you don't have Telegram, make sure you go and get Telegram. I'm more active there than any other platform. Telegram, in my opinion, is the most important tool of our time, largely because it's censorship free. So we don't know how long we're going to be on Facebook for. So definitely go ahead, grab Telegram, and that way we can make sure that we do not lose touch. All right, let's just get stuck straight into it, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? So we're going to break down the weekly Therapeutic Goods Administration vaccine safety report. I've really taken exception to this report for a long time. I'm going to explain why, but before we do, we're going to go through a few disclaimers, okay? I don't know, legal disclaimers, something to that effect. So as of the 30th of the 9th, 2021, the Therapeutic Goods Administration has reported 64,293 AEFIs, all right? So that's adverse event following immunization, and 564 deaths, okay? Now, it's very important to point out, as I've got there with the asterisks, these figures are not conclusive and may not be associated with the vaccine, okay? So, in other words, these adverse events and deaths took place after somebody was injected. It's yet to be determined for the very vast majority of these cases whether or not there was a link between the event and the vaccine. And it seems like the TGA, they seem to be in no rush to get to the bottom of it. But hey, you know, who am I? Who am I to speculate on the expertise of the bureaucrats that work in the Therapeutic Goods Administration? You know, I'm sure they're our nation's best and brightest. What do you reckon, ladies and gentlemen? All right. So a couple of definitions here. So, of course, AEFI, adverse event following immunization, and also when we refer to death, we're referring to a death that occurred following immunization. Also, AEFIs and post-immunization deaths published in the COVID-19 Vaccine Weekly Safety Report may not have been the result of any given COVID-19 vaccine. Data featured in this segment is not conclusive and may not be indicative of the true AEFI and post-immunization death figures, okay? So just to make that perfectly clear. All right, so let's have a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. So we've got the weekly safety report. I'm just going to pull that up on my screen right now. There we go. All right, so as you can see, the 30th of the 9th. Now, straight off the bat, this looks to me like it's more of a promotional sales pitch rather than any type of real comprehensive sales safety report. Here's why I'm saying this. So we've got here, vaccination against COVID-19 is the most effective way to reduce deaths and severe illness from infection. It's like, well, hold on a second. I thought that I was accessing a document here so I could gain information to help me make an informed decision in relation to whether or not I want to participate in this vaccine. Yet they're just, you know, really selling it to you right here. Goes on to say here, the protective benefits of vaccination against COVID-19 far outweigh the potential risks. Well, the government tells us every day. I find it quite amusing that the government feels the need to put this type of salesy lines here in the safety report. All right. So we have total AEFI's reports received, 64,293, okay? So some people might be a little bit confused. They may see this figure right here, 64,000, next to nearly 27 million doses administered. So one could be forgiven for doing a little bit of on-the-spot mental arithmetic and determining what a percentage would look like, 64,000 into nearly 27 million. So one could be forgiven for drawing a false conclusion that there's only been, say, 64,000 adverse events following immunization. Now, in my opinion, it's very deceptive that the Therapeutic Goods Administration publishes these figures right next to each other. So the devil is really in the detail. Total AEFI reports received. Okay, so the question is, why have only just over 64,000 reports been received? Shouldn't there potentially be a whole lot more than that? Well, why am I saying that? Well, I'll go into a bit of detail about that in just a second. Also here in regards to death, where supposedly the TGA reviews all deaths reported in people that have been vaccinated. And it says as the number of vaccinated people have increased, so has the reporting of fatal events. All right, so what the TGA is suggesting here is that there's been 564 reports of deaths post-immunization, but based on their expert investigative teams, they've only found 9 reports that were actually linked to immunization. So what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think that we have the best and brightest and people that have the best intentions of the Australian public working in the Therapeutic Goods Administration on this vaccine safety report? Or do you think maybe we have people whose core allegiance is to the government and perhaps other corporations or somebody else? What do you think? I'm just posing the question here, okay? And I'll leave it up to you at home. So why do I have an issue here with this figure? This is probably an accurate figure in terms of, as it says here, reports received. Probably they only have received these reports, or perhaps these are that is the figure of reports that they've been able to process at the TGA, and perhaps they have not been able to process additional reports. So why am I taking exception to this figure? Okay, well, it's quite clear here. This is Ausvac Safety. This is the Ausvac Safety website right here. Now, Ausvac Safety is a non-government entity that's government funded. It is an entity that communicates directly with the Therapeutic Goods Administration. Its core function is to send surveys to people post-immunization of the COVID-19 vaccine in order to ask the question whether or not a patient experienced an adverse event following immunization. So let's have a bit of a look at this data here. It says here that 3,733,538 surveys have been completed, and out of that, 43.8% reported at least one adverse event. All right, so let's just not look any further for now. Go back here and let me ask you a question. Does 64,000 in your mind equal roughly 43.8% of 26,800,000? Does that equal 64,000, or does it equal something a lot higher than that? All right, now just bear with me for a moment. I'm getting to the point. You're saying, well, hold on a second, Morgan. These surveys from Ausvac Safety, they haven't been certified by these expert government bureaucrats. Well, that's true, but my argument is, why would somebody lie about experiencing an adverse event? You'd think that if somebody is running off to go and get the COVID-19 vaccine, then there's a reasonable chance they wanted to do it. But actually, I suppose you really can't apply that anymore, can you, given all the coercion that's going on? But just humor me for a moment. Let's look at these figures here. So look at this. Survey sent on day 3 post-vaccination, all right? So here's another issue with the data. It is a known fact that many adverse events following immunization occur after 3 days. They can occur weeks from immunization. So another question is, why is Ausvac Safety not sending a follow-up survey, say 2 weeks post-immunization or 4 weeks post-immunization? If they were to do that, here's a question for you. Would this figure of 43.8% remain at 43.8%? Or could that figure possibly be much, much higher if Ausvac Safety actually cared about comprehensive data in relation to adverse events following immunization? All right, so let's take it back now, okay? Because we're going to use this figure of 43.8% because that's really all we have to go on. My suspicion is that it could very well be a fair bit higher than that. But let's go back and take a look here at an estimate, okay? So the government, right, as we've seen via the Therapeutic Goods Administration, and where have I gone? There I am. The government has, as you see, posted just over 64,000. All right, so we have to make our own estimate. So look at this. Adverse event following immunization estimate based on Ausvac Safety data. All right, so total doses administered, 26,800,000. AEFI rate based on 3.7 million surveys is 43.8%. All right, so to work that out as a total comes to 11,741,218. Okay, so this is based on a tremendous deal of survey results, nearly 4 million survey results. So we have to think that data is somewhat reliable. And of course, this is taking into consideration the fact that surveys are only sent after 3 days. So that figure right there of nearly 12 million could very well be much higher? I just don't have the answer to that question because it appears that the data doesn't exist. It appears that the Therapeutic Goods Administration isn't really that interested in following up on all the adverse events following immunization. It seems that no one in government's really that interested in getting to the bottom of what should be a hotly contested topic. You don't see the people in the mainstream media raising these types of questions in press conferences. Instead, they're more concerned about, well, when's the next mass vaccination hub opening up? How would you like to see people in the presses asking these types of questions? Would you like me to be in there? I don't know if they'd want somebody like me in there. I'd absolutely rip these people apart. All right, so I've got some thoughts in relation to this TGA safety report, which, as I said, really looks more like a sales pitch than anything else. So I'm going to run through my thoughts with you in relation to this absolute piece of trash document that the Therapeutic Goods Administration publishes once a week. So first of all, one, the TGA Weekly Safety Report is misleading, not comprehensive, and is published in a manner that can be easily misinterpreted in relation to the likelihood of experiencing an adverse event following immunization. Ladies and gentlemen, true or false, put that in the comments. Feel free to disagree with me. All right, two, the TGA and government have made little effort or no effort whatsoever to encourage the general public to report adverse events following immunization to the TGA. True or false, put that in the comments. When was the last time you heard Daniel Andrews or Greg Hunt call on the public and encourage the public to report any adverse events to the TGA should they sustain some sort of side effect after immunization? When was the last time you heard Scott Morrison talk about it? Or Martin Foley, who is supposedly the health minister, although he doesn't look very healthy to me. Three, the TGA COVID-19 Weekly Safety Report reads as promotional material, not a comprehensive safety report. All right, true or false? Put that in the comments. Four, given the demonstrated disparity of likely AEFIs versus AEFIs received and reported by the TGA, this is more of a question. Could there also exist such a disparity when considering death following immunization? Hey, I'm not saying anything. I'm just asking the question. Don't shoot the messenger. But I think given the nature of the safety report, it's only fair that we at least ask. Is that fair enough? All right, five. The TGA Weekly Safety Report suppresses Australians' ability to make a proper informed decision. All right, so those are my five final thoughts. Now, why could this be happening, ladies and gentlemen? Are the people that work in the Therapeutic Goods Administration, are they stupid? Are they uneducated? Are they incapable of realizing the extent to which the Weekly Safety Report could easily be misinterpreted by the public? Or are they doing it on purpose? That's my question to you. And if they are doing it on purpose, why are they doing it on purpose? Could there be some type of conspiracy here? Could they be conspiring in one way, shape, or form, perhaps in conjunction with the government and maybe the pharmaceutical corporations? Could they be conspiring against the Australian public? Now, I don't have the answer to that question, but I'm simply raising the question because to me, the format and the lack of context makes no sense when looking at what exactly it is that makes up informed consent. So I'm leaving the question with you. Go ahead and put in the comments what you think. I'm just the messenger, so that's all I have to say about this this document, this absolute piece of rubbish. And let's keep this show rolling, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? All right, so what do we have next? All right, Tanya Davies. Who knows who this person is? She's doing a marvellous job. She's a member of Parliament up in New South Wales. She has been an outspoken voice, standing up for the people of Western Sydney, standing against the prospect of coercion. Now, she's actually given a tremendous commentary. That's right. Who here saw the news? The Fair Work Commission decision in relation to mandatory vaccinations, specifically coercion involving the COVID-19 vaccine and the prospect of people losing their jobs. Now, Tanya provided an excellent breakdown of the findings in this decision. So I'm going to play for you her clip. She really did such a tremendous job, so I figured she's probably the best person to hear it from. Here's just a couple of examples here. Look at this. Australians should also vigorously oppose the ongoing censorship of any views that question the current policies regarding COVID. Science is no longer science if a person's not allowed to question it. And look at this. All Australians should vigorously oppose the introduction of a system of medical apartheid and segregation in Australia. And this is not willy-nilly. This is coming from the Fair Work Commission. All right, so we've got a 15-minute video from Tanya. She breaks it down in such a measured and objective way. I'm going to play that for you right now.
Good evening, everyone. I've got some really good news, finally, to report in relation to the issue of mandatory vaccinations. But before I go into some of the detail, I just wanted to also give you a bit of a heads up that I've been interviewed on tonight. The Alan Jones show on Sky News goes to air at 8 p.m. tonight. So I'll have an interview on there with the Leader of the Opposition. So if you're able to watch Sky News and you're interested, just have a look from 8 o'clock tonight. I'll be on there. But just really quickly, I just wanted to bring to your attention something that was brought to my attention this afternoon, and that is the Fair Work Commission's decision that was handed down on Monday of this week. It's in relation to an appeal lodged by an aged care worker who was sacked from her job because she refused to have a flu vaccine. And that worker appealed that decision of the Fair Work Commission to endorse it. And the decision was handed down on Monday. Now, I know that was talking about a flu vaccine, but what's interesting in this report, and it is going to be linked on my Facebook page because I really want to encourage as many people as possible to actually read the number of pages I'm going to refer to. So if you get the document, it's 44 pages long, but part two is where the action really happens for us who are fighting the mandatory vaccination policy of the government, or you lose your job. Okay, so part two is headed Vaccine Requirements in relation to COVID. Now, it goes from page 32 to page 44, and it is pretty shocking in terms of what this Fair Work Commission has determined in relation to the settings around that vaccination should be voluntary, around the hesitancy of people having this COVID vaccine, around the use of public health orders to mandate vaccination coverage. And let me just cover off a couple of key points. But again, I really want to encourage you, have a look at the document, go straight to page 32 of page 44 and have a read yourself. It's pretty easy to read, but I just want to highlight a couple of things for you tonight. All right, what's interesting, this year, the Australian Council of Trade Unions and the Business Council of Australia, they issued a joint statement on mandatory COVID vaccinations in which it acknowledged that the Australian government's COVID vaccination policy, that the vaccine is voluntary, and confirmed the views of the BCA and the ACTU that for the overwhelming majority of Australians, your work or workplace should not fundamentally alter the voluntary nature of vaccination. Okay, so that was included in this document today. The Fair Work Ombudsman has also come out and said that the overwhelming majority of employers should assume they can't require employees to be vaccinated against coronavirus. Safe Work Australia has publicly stated that most employers will not need to make vaccinations mandatory in order to meet their health and safety obligations. And it gets more and more interesting. Mandatory COVID vaccinations, this is a thing that we're all fighting against, however, cannot be justified in almost every workplace in Australia. While there are a number of reasons for this decision, that is the decision in this document, will focus on three things: the requirement for freely given and informed consent for medical procedures, denying an unvaccinated person the ability to work on health and safety grounds, whether at the initiation of an employer or as part of a public health order, and the requirements to comply with disability discrimination laws. Now, what's interesting is that this Fair Work Commission decision has actually identified a couple of things that you have all been talking to me about, but which I have been a little bit reluctant to say publicly on this channel. But I'm reading the words from the Fair Work Commission. All right. Before turning to a consideration of these reasons I've just mentioned above, it is important to set the context with some information that is publicly available and should be uncontroversial. Unlike many other vaccinations, such as those used to stop the spread of tetanus, yellow fever, and smallpox, COVID vaccinations are not designed to stop COVID. They are designed to reduce the symptoms of the virus. However, a fully vaccinated person can still contract and transmit COVID. The science is clear in that COVID is less serious for those who are young and otherwise healthy compared to those who are elderly or have comorbidities, and they gave some statistics. The World Health Organization has stated that most people diagnosed with COVID will recover without the need for any medical treatment. The vaccines are only provisionally approved for use in Australia and are accordingly still part of a clinical trial. There are side effects to the COVID vaccines that are now known. That side effect exists is not a conspiracy theory. The long-term effects of the COVID vaccines are unknown, and this is recognised by the Therapeutic Goods Administration in Australia. And they go into a lot of talk around consent is required for participation in clinical trials. So the Fair Work Commission has identified that the COVID vaccines are actually part of a clinical trial, and they go into a lot of detail around the requirements, the legal and the internationally binding requirements that a participant in a clinical trial must provide consent, and what does that consent entail. I won't go into any of the details, but again, I urge you to please read this document because it is monumental to people who are fighting the forced vaccination public health orders of this state. There's a point here on page 35. Can COVID vaccinations be mandated by employers on health and safety grounds? And their first response is, the short answer to this question in almost every case is no. Well, that's a decisive decision for you. Let me go over. It says, critically, there is another alternative to vaccines to assist employers in meeting their work, health and safety obligations, and that is being tested. Actually, the rapid antigen testing or other tests, PCR tests, which many of us have had. Testing is arguably a better control measure compared to vaccines in meeting health and safety obligations, because you pretty much can determine if someone has the virus or doesn't have the virus with the test, whereas we already know that those who are vaccinated can still carry the virus. In short, there is no justifiable basis for employers to mandate COVID vaccinations to meet their health and safety obligations when there are other options available to appropriately manage the risk. Now, it goes on to more and more evidence that backs up our fight against mandatory vaccinations, or people will lose their job. All right, but let me now turn to the final comments. Now, their final comments are powerful, absolutely powerful. And if you don't read anything else in this report, then turn to page 41 and read the comments under the heading called Final Comments. Here it is. Research in the context of COVID-19 has shown that many who are vaccine hesitant are well educated, work in the healthcare industry, and have questions about how effective the vaccines are in stopping transmission, whether they are safe to take in pregnancy or if they affect fertility. A far safer and more democratic approach to addressing vaccine hesitancy and therefore increasing voluntary vaccine uptake lies in better education, addressing specific and often legitimate concerns that people may hold, and promoting genuine informed consent. It does not lie in censoring differing opinions or removing rights and civil liberties that are fundamental in a democratic nation. It certainly does not lie in the use of highly coercive, undemocratic, and unethical mandates. The statements by politicians that those who are not vaccinated are a threat to public health and should be locked out of society and denied the ability to work are not measures to protect public health. They are not about public health and not justified because they do not address the actual risk of COVID. These measures can only be about punishing those who choose not to be vaccinated. If the purpose of the public health orders is genuinely to reduce the spread of COVID, there is no basis for locking out people who do not have COVID, which is easily established by a rapid antigen test. Conversely, a vaccinated person who contracts COVID should be required to isolate until such time as they have recovered. Blanket rules such as mandating vaccinations for everyone across a whole profession or industry, regardless of the actual risk, fails the test of proportionality, necessity, and reasonableness. It is more than the absolute minimum necessary to combat the crisis and cannot be justified on health grounds. It is a lazy and fundamentally flawed approach to risk management and should be soundly rejected by courts when challenged. All Australians, those who are vaccinated and those who may not be able to get vaccinated and those who are vaccine hesitant, should vigorously oppose the introduction of a system of medical apartheid and segregation in Australia. It is an abhorrent concept and is morally and ethically wrong. And the antithesis, or the opposite, let me turn the page, to our democratic way of life and everything we value. Australians should also vigorously oppose the ongoing censorship of any views that question the policies regarding COVID. Science is no longer science if a person is not allowed to question. Well, friends, that is unbelievably powerful, and that is an endorsement of the hundreds and thousands of individuals and families and business owners who have been contacting me about this mandatory vaccination policy or you'll lose your job. This is the document here. I'm putting the link down to that document in full. Please look at it, share it around. This has to go viral because right now, as of tomorrow, the healthcare workers have their deadline to have their first dose, or they're out of a job. They will either be put off, sacked, or the Minister for Health said leave without pay, which is in effect sacking. Well, how long is leave without pay going to last for? Again, Fair Work Commission has just said that a blanket mandatory vaccination policy breaches our democratic way of life. It is far and above more than what is necessary to contain the public health risk, which is the purpose of a public health order. It's more about control and now punishing people who haven't got the vaccine. This is not Australia, people. We need to stand up, spread this message around, share this Fair Work Commission decision, share it to all your friends, tell them where to go from page 31 onwards. That's the relevant stuff about COVID vaccinations. Share this video around. This is the facts. Finally, this commission has determined that what our government in New South Wales is doing is gone way too far, and it has to stop. It has to stop now, right now. So share this post, share the video, share the link, read it, understand what it's saying, and you know what? We'll keep at it. We will keep going. We will keep going. Thank you for your time and have a great night. Until we talk again. Bye for now.
All right, give it up for Tanya Davies, ladies and gentlemen. So let's just expand on this a little bit further. There were a few key points in there in relation to the prospect of clinical trials. That's right. So here's a question for you at home. Are the COVID-19 vaccines still in their clinical trial phase? All right, well, let's have a look right here. We've got one clinical trial. This is coming from clinicaltrials.gov, and this is in relation to one of the COVID-19 vaccines. So we've got AstraZeneca right here. Estimated study completion date, February 14th, 2023. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've reached the year 2023 yet. As far as I'm concerned, it's still 2021. All right, so we've got another one right here. Pfizer and BioNTech also scheduled to finish, September 27th, 2023. So can it be denied that these are clinical trials? Who here was watching the Supreme Court action today regarding Brad Hazard and the professor there on behalf of the government, who she somewhat argued that there are no clinical trials, or there are. She couldn't really give a straight answer, but this to me is really quite interesting. Now, another question that we need to ask ourselves is, are we indeed the clinical trial? Okay, now according to the Health Minister Greg Hunt, he seemed to feel confident enough to proclaim that the world is involved in the largest clinical trial. So I'll just remind you of what the Health Minister said.
The world is engaged in the largest clinical trial, the largest global vaccination trial ever.
So what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Is this a clinical trial? Greg Hunt, he said that it is. So let's take a bit of a look here, shall we, in relation to informed consent, because make no mistake about it, anybody participating in a clinical trial, now I'm not saying this is a clinical trial, all right? Greg Hunt said that. Not me, Morgan, from MCJ Report. I'm going off the words of the Health Minister. All right, look at this. This is coming from health.vic.gov.au. So the government makes no bones about hiding what they consider informed consent to be. Look at this. The informed consent of a person must be sought before treatment or medical treatment is given to a person in accordance with the Mental Health Act. A person gives informed consent if they have a capacity to give informed consent to the treatment or medical treatment proposed, have been given adequate information to enable the person to make an informed decision. Has that happened? Yes or no? Have been given a reasonable opportunity to make the decision, have given consent freely without undue pressure or coercion by any other person. I mean, we are literally witnessing the biggest coercion campaign of our lifetime. And it says right here under informed consent by the standards of the government that consent must be given freely without coercion or undue pressure. All right, so that's what it says here in relation to informed consent. So what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? I just present the information to you. I think it's very promising to see this decision, this determination made in the Fair Work Commission, and to see Tanya Davies really giving a tremendous breakdown of it. Of course, we saw the Supreme Court action today, so it'll be interesting to see what happens from that point forward. And that's probably about the end of this segment right here. So I hope that you found that interesting, and I hope that it's given you a little bit of strength. We need a few victories. Actually, we need a lot of victories, but I'm very confident that as long as we hold the line, we will get through this and we will win, because what the government is doing is just absolutely inhumane, disgraceful. It's nothing you'd expect to see in a civilized society. So make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen. From my perspective, for me, it's not enough to see the mandate scrapped and to see the coercion scrapped. I want those who are responsible for implementing the coercion to be brought to justice. Who here would like to see that? Now, justice looks different to different people. How exactly would I like to see these certain politicians and bureaucrats brought to justice? Well, I probably shouldn't say these things on the MCJ report. So whatever, I'll leave that up to your imagination at home. All right, let's keep this moving along, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Alrighty, so speaking about mental health, I have an interview that I recorded with a mental health expert. It goes for about 6 minutes. It's with Lisa Bentley. Okay, she's been in the industry for 20 years. She holds a bachelor's degree in applied social science, and she has identified the mental health crisis that has been unleashed upon us since the inception of this corona situation. Families being ripped apart, of course, kids and teenagers suffering mentally very, very badly. And she has taken it upon herself to spearhead a new show. So she'll be running her own show once a week. It will be on Fridays at 12 p.m. The show will entail having guests on the show to basically give counseling and to lend an ear to those who are suffering during this corona crisis. Let's call it a crisis, right? A crisis of mismanagement and government overreach. So I think this is great. The government refuses to address the mental health crisis. So I've got a 6-minute interview with Lisa where I asked her some questions in relation to why is she doing this. I'm going to play it for you right now. All right, we're joined here once again by Lisa Bentley. Lisa, welcome back to MCJ Report. Now, I think your new program has come at a very fitting time. We're, of course, faced with a mental health crisis to the likes of which we perhaps have not seen before. So would you mind telling the audience at home a little bit more about your show and what you're seeking to achieve by it?
Absolutely. I'm hoping to dedicate this show to people who need to be heard, who people feel they're alone in this journey, particularly parents and but also workers, just anyone who sometimes gets up in the morning and feels like they're going through a Groundhog Day again without any support.
All right, that sounds really good. And what type of program can people expect to see when they tune into your new show?
Well, this show's about allowing people to be heard. So it's not so much me talking about what I'm thinking or feeling about what's happened in the world, but it's more about them knowing that someone is actually supporting them on the other side who is in the industry of mental health and in a counselling role every day and has to hear people who are dealing with different challenges all the time. It's a very sad situation right now, Morgan. I'm actually dealing with 9-year-olds to 19-year-olds who actually don't want to live, and they feel like they have nothing to live for. And I'm worried that there are many more people out there that might be feeling the same. And I want to create a safe space for them to talk about their feelings, because my other concern is the minority, I guess, of us who are worried about vaccines, worried about lockdowns, restrictions, how this is affecting our lives, are cowering in the corner and not having a voice in this journey. And I really want people to have a voice, which is why I've called it You're the Voice, after the famous Johnny Farnham song, which has a real message about standing up and speaking your truth.
Yeah, definitely. The government has really failed to address the ever looming mental health crisis. So I think that your show probably could not have come at a better time. So we're expecting the debut to be 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time this Friday on your channel, Lisa, and I've put the link in the description. Now, for anyone at home, should they seek to be a guest on your show, what measures would they need to take to make that happen?
They would just need to reach out to me via that link. They can email or send a message, via Facebook, and I will endeavour to get them on. At this point in time, I think I'll have 2 to 3 people on per show, and I'll have a theme. So the first theme, which will be this week, every week there'll be a different theme to the show. This week's theme will be for parents, particularly mums like myself who are concerned and worried about the vaccine and the mandates, the school mandates right now for their children. And they don't want their children to have it, but their children are torn because their friends are having it. So I really want to provide a safe place for parents to be able to talk about that and know that I resonate with what they're going through as well, because I'm a parent.
Perfect. Well, I think that it's a tremendous idea. You yourself, 20 years in the arena of mental health, a seasoned professional, and this is exactly what we need. We really don't know the scope to which people are suffering, but we know it's on a level that we've never seen before. All right, so the name of the show is You're the Voice. You can go and tune in live this Friday at 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Lisa's Facebook page. The link is in the description. And I think this is potentially the start of something really great. So, Lisa, thank you for using your expertise to contribute to this cause, this really important cause of mental health.
Thank you so much, Morgan. Thank you for giving me a chance to get this new show out there.
No worries. Are there any final words you'd like to share with the public before we wrap it up?
No, just please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I will endeavour to get back to you, and I hope this show is a success, and I hope that people know that this show is all about them and how they need someone to help support them through what we're going through right now. And we will get through this. I do have a lot of optimism that we'll get through this.
Amazing work, Lisa. Lisa, thank you so much for your time. And again, this Friday, 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on Lisa's Facebook page. You're the Voice. All right, I'll catch you next time, Lisa.
Okay, thanks, Morgan.
All right,
Cheers.
thank you. All right, thank you very much to Lisa for your time. So, guys, if you're interested in tuning into Lisa's show, it will be live tomorrow at midday on facebook.com/Lisa Bentley. That's BENTLEY 2020. That's facebook.com/Lisa Bentley 2020. I think it will be a very important show, and allowing people to have their voices heard, I would say, is something very, very beneficial given the times that we are living in. Anyway, let's keep this rolling along, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? All right, who here knows this guy right here? Christian Mack. He's doing something tremendous. He has spearheaded an organization, as you can see here, NEU, National Education United. Now, Christian is calling for a strike nationwide for workers across all different industries, people who feel that they've been left behind, people who feel that the coercion is inhumane and that nobody should have to willingly relinquish their rights and basic civil liberties and personal dignity. So Christian is basically calling on Australians to stand up for their rights, to stand up for freedom, and to stand against these coercive, unfair tactics that are being used by the government. Now, Christian has actually called a strike for tomorrow. That's right. So he's just going for it, guns blazing. Monica conducted an interview with him a little bit earlier today. It goes for about 5 minutes. I'm going to play it for you right now so you can hear it from the man himself.
All right, so I'm here with Christian Mack, who has recently, 5 weeks ago, started the National Education United, which is basically a union to support people who don't want to get a vaccine or concede to the mandatory vaccine requirements. It's been going for 5 weeks. He already has 20,500 members, which just goes to show that the need for something like this is really important. And I just got to say, it gave me so much hope to come out of jail and see what you had created. So the first thing I want to talk about before I get into the union stuff is I want to talk about what you are organising for tomorrow. Can you please go into that a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Monica. So basically, we've organised industrial action. There's an industrial dispute going on around mandatory vaccines. The unions have basically folded. They are not supporting the teachers and workers, New South Wales Police, Victoria Police, Queensland Police, nurses, paramedics, fireys, healthcare workers. So we set up our own association, the National Education United, and we're looking at this as an industrial dispute. So we are taking industrial action in the form of a silent strike. It's a peaceful and silent strike. It is within our legal and lawful rights under the Fair Work Act of 2009. We've spoken to lawyers about it, and it is a work-related matter. And under current conditions, people are still allowed to attend to work-related matters. And this is what this actually is. We're asking people at 11 a.m. to strike. They'll be wearing white. They will have a t-shirt on with hashtag reclaim the line and whatever profession they do written on the back. And there will be a heap of locations all over the country. And we are asking everyone to just follow the law of the land, follow all the rules, and there will be no problems.
I did see somewhere that you wrote, I will die on this hill. Now, some people might think that's a bit extreme. Why would you say something like that, and what does it mean?
Because nothing else matters. If anyone thinks that anything else matters but choice, your freedom to choose, your freedom to have an opinion, your freedom to assemble, your freedom to love, your freedom to do anything without breaking the law, then they don't really understand what is happening. People don't understand that we are in this country, we are broken, we are in trouble, we're in distress, and people need to unite. They need to stand up, they need to speak up, because nothing else matters than our freedoms. And that is what is at stake here. Mark my word, our freedoms. And I'm not talking about our freedoms to cross borders. I'm talking about our freedoms to just live, to have the opinion that we want to have the thought that we want to have, the discussions, to assemble with our loved ones. That is what is at stake here.
Okay. And what do you hope to achieve by this legal, peaceful industrial action?
First of all, we want to empower people. We want to inspire people. People are broken. People are so disheartened. People are divided. We want people to come together, vaccinated versus unvaccinated, pro-choice, people that they just need to feel their community again. They just need to get together again with their family and their friends. People are so disconnected. We want to inspire people to awaken that inner lion within them. They were born, everyone was born for this moment. What we are living through, we heard our grandparents and great-grandparents talk about perhaps during the war or the Great Depression. This is our time. This is, okay, we don't have bullets flying over our head, okay, but we have a spiritual war. This is an attack on the mind and the heart, and they are trying to divide us. And this is why I say I will die on this hill, because I want to leave a legacy for my kids and my grandkids. This is why we are doing this. This is not an extreme statement that I made. And this is my plea to all fellow Australians. Please, please get on board.
That's great. And look, like I said, the fact that you have over 20,000 members in only 5 weeks just goes to show that you're not alone, and there's plenty of people out there. So I'm sure that membership will keep growing. There's one more thing I'm going to ask, and
Sure.
it's a bit more of a personal one for me to ask this question, but are you concerned that what you're doing will end you up in a similar position than myself? And how does that affect what your decisions are?
Of course I'm concerned. I have a family, I've got kids, but it doesn't matter. I don't care anymore. They have taken so much from us. They have taken so much of our freedoms. They have broken us. I have not been able to see my mother and father. I haven't been able to assemble with family on important occasions. Now, my daughter was born last year during the lockdowns. We were isolated, my wife and I, and our newborn. What more can they do to me? What more can they take from us? Fines? Okay. Lock me up? Okay. But we're living in a prison now. People think we're free. We are not. This country is not free. We are free-range humans. They make you feel like we're free, but we're not. So I don't care anymore. I don't care what they say about me, what the trolls say about me, what the media says about me, how they paint me, how many times the police come to my door, if they handcuff me. I have done nothing wrong. I was born with God-given rights. I am peaceful. I've never incited violence. I've never incited hatred. I've never harmed anyone. I've never stolen from anyone. I've never cheated on anyone. So what can they get me on? Having an opinion? I am happy, like you, Monica, I'm happy to become a political prisoner. I don't care. My family, we've spoken about this and we have things in place to protect us.
Had obviously members of parliament supporting your action, your industrial strike tomorrow. George Christensen is one of them. So you've got lots of support, mate. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll probably do a follow-up and see how it goes tomorrow.
All right, a great job there done by Christian. So the question to you at home is, will you be participating in this strike? I think that strikes have proven throughout history to be an effective way of bringing the government to the negotiating table. But of course, it comes down to the individual, what he or she chooses to do. All right, well, let's keep this moving along, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? I have another small clip here. This one goes for just about 3 minutes. And I like promoting independent media. So this bloke is from Sydney. I just came across him today, sent in by a friend of mine. His name's Rami Daniel, and he made an interview from a peaceful anti-discrimination protest in Sydney. And he had some very interesting interactions with the police, some very friendly interactions. So I think it's probably important to see this type of stuff as well. So here's Rami Daniel on YouTube. The clip goes for about 3.5 minutes. I'm going to play it for you right now.
What brings me here is I don't want to see Australians going through what my people, the Kurdish people, have been through. Well, I know things started in our country when the politicians started the divide between the people. My parents are both from different races, but they managed to come together, even though they're considered to be enemies.
I signed up for the United Australia Party. So
yep. He got a lot of members real fast.
He's fantastic. Something needs to happen. I think Sydney is relying on next week, The next couple of weeks we're watching the courts.
I just want everyone to live freely together with pro-choice, regardless if you're vaccinated or not. It should be your choice, your body, and stop picking on each other. Everyone just unite like we used to. Our veterans fought for a reason. They fought for our freedoms, and here we are trying to fight for them again.
Government and the media are dividing the people.
I don't know why they're spreading those lies, why they're saying things like that about us. Obviously, the aggression that's shown in the media isn't okay, but we're just trying to do things peacefully.
And everything you see is only what the media tells you to. Only what the media shows you. Okay? So don't always be fooled with what the media shows you as well. Mate, the thing is, what I was saying to one of the young blokes here, you do have a choice. The problem is there's consequences to that choice. Well, it could be that. It could be you no longer have a job. That's the choice you've made. It's been put on.
They're trying to jab my children now, and that's just not on. They're trying to say that they can make that choice freely on their own. What's this teaching them? Bullying is okay?
As I said, we're legislating to do certain things. Yeah. And we think it's fair that you guys help us out as well. Oh, mate. Because we're not trying to cause you drama. We don't want drama. You know what I mean? We don't want drama. I know. It is your choice, but there's consequences to the choice.
Yeah? Can I ask you a question of that?
Always ask me a question.
Yeah, what do you want to
know the answer? Or
you want to ask him? You want to ask him? Can you ask you a question? Is that all right? Is that allowed?
Yeah, of course you can ask me a
Yeah,
question.
here you go.
Hey, brother, how are you?
Oh, it was just silent. They weren't that bad. They were good. Yeah. It's good when it's good. It's good when it's peaceful. Much better than Melbourne. Gosh, they were worried I was going to get a bullet to the head today. I said, that's fine. I'm not scared of it. We'll try it.
I see many people from all different nationalities that agree with me, that are angry.
Where do we go with that one then? Thanks anyway, Elsa.
That's all right, mate.
One more.
Sky's blue, water's wet, mate. To be honest, mate, there's a lot of things that we sign up for. Some things we may not like, we may do. I don't like going to murder scenes either, but you understand what I mean? I don't like going to pandemic-related decease either. But I didn't actually turn around and say, I signed up to go to those things. No, I didn't. but I still have to do it. Thank you.
I'm a humanitarian. I believe in humanity. I believe in one. I believe in people. And I don't believe that there should be divide in any which way. Doesn't matter what it is, political, race, gender, age. It shouldn't exist. We're all humans. And that's what it boils down to.
Definitely nice to see there, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen, seeing a police officer and a member of the public having a nice, light-hearted conversation, something that we would like to see a lot more of. So this bloke here, Ramy Daniel on YouTube, that's R-A-M-Y, surname Daniel on YouTube. Why don't you go ahead and check him out? I think it's great to see more people stepping into the independent media arena, and for sure it's something that I will continue promoting via MCJ Report. So I don't know who Ramy is, but whoever you are, good job. All right, so this just about brings us to the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. So let's have a bit of a chat. I'm happy to stick around for a bit. Just before I forget, of course, no, we don't want that. The obligatory MCJ Report. Join our newsletter. So if I am taken off social media, you can make sure you never lose touch with the events of MCJ Report. So all you need is your name and an email address, and away you go. Also, if you'd like to support the show, you can pledge a financial contribution. We don't have any big sponsors on MCJ Report. I actually had somebody from a business offer me some money and then said, "Hey, but I want you to do this, this, and that," and I said, "No, I don't want it." So I prefer this system. And if you can, no stress. If you're going through a difficult time, please hold off. But if you'd like to contribute, it's mcjreport.com/donate. All right, now. All right, let's see if we can actually get this chat. Yesterday the chat was way too small, so I'm trying to make it bigger. How about that? Let's see. Is that more readable for you guys? I'm just adjusting it. Okay. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Put it in the chat, and I will do my best to answer those questions. So I'm opening up the floor. Go ahead. Who has the first question? All right. Let's see. Payment for that with SS Darwin. I'm not sure exactly the reference that you're making there. So Peter there's talking about the isolate of the virus. Yes, so you can view the isolate of SARS coronavirus 2. One source is the National Institute of Health in the United States. And there's Sharon there. Sharon, welcome to the broadcast. Not too sure at this stage, but we're going to have to make a few arrangements, I think. Okay, so who here watched the Supreme Court action regarding Brad Hazard? I actually watched a couple of hours today. I saw many good arguments raised, but before I comment too much on it, I'd like to get comment from at least one member of the legal team involved. So I'll be seeking to obtain that information to relay it to you guys on the show. It says here, someone said, does anyone know if schools can make Year 12 students get tests before exams? Well, we're seeing a lot of overreach, aren't we? A lot of abuse of power. I wouldn't think so, but in this day and age, it's definitely a possibility. Philomena says, do you think we will win in court? Well, we're not going to win every battle, but with every battle you learn something, and I can tell you that we're moving closer and closer towards some very significant victories. Okay, let's see. Karen says, what is the involvement of the United Nations? Well, in the context of Corona, the World Health Organization is a subsidiary of the United Nations and basically has drafted all the policy that we adhere to in Australia. So the Australian government, without really doing any of their own thinking, adopted the policy from the World Health Organization, said, well, this is coming from the UN knows best, and in my view, it was a very lazy approach. We see Norway completely opening up, Norway also removing vaccine status conditions of entry into their country and removing hotel quarantine. So if Norway has decided that the Delta strain just isn't really that much of a concern, then why are we dragging our feet in Australia? Natasha says, what did I think of the court case today? I didn't see all of it. I only saw a couple of hours. So I don't really have an opinion. Okay, let's see. Someone says, there's Anna there. How you going? Is it mandatory for police and government officials to have the jab? So it looks like it's becoming mandatory for Queensland police. We'll have to see what happens with the rest of the country. I can tell you for a fact that there are police forums all over the country, whether it's Victoria Police, New South Wales Police. Police officers talk to each other and they express their concerns regarding the prospect of mandatory vaccinations. And then they head out to the streets and beat up protesters who are protesting against mandatory vaccinations. It really doesn't make much sense, does it? Jen says, do I think Andrew is relentless because he's owned by the Chinese Communist Party? Well, I think Daniel Andrews aspires to be like his former masters in the Chinese Communist Party. I'm not sure the extent to which he holds a relationship with them today. Certainly before Corona, my biggest concern was that Daniel Andrews was going to bypass, say, the measures that were supposedly in place with the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and he was seeking to intertwine the Victorian economy with China by outsourcing various contracts, including but not limited to infrastructure. So that's what the Belt and Road Initiative was all about. Essentially, Daniel Andrews inviting Chinese infrastructure firms into Victoria and having those firms awarded infrastructure contracts in our state, completely undermining local business and local workers. And why I took so much exception to it at the time and why I protested against it all the way back in 2019 was because I considered his actions to be completely reckless, undermining our sovereignty, and essentially placing Chinese firms in front of Australian firms and placing Chinese workers in front of workers here. And I thought to myself, what sort of rubbish is this? This guy running off to China, signing these deals behind our back. And now the biggest worry we have is the extent to which Daniel Andrews seeks to rule over Victoria with an iron fist. So it's interesting how times have changed, isn't it? All right, let's see. What do we have here? And, I want to get back into covering foreign policy on the MCJ report. With all the human rights destroying policies of the COVID-driven government, we really haven't covered much in the way of foreign policy on MCJ Report for a long time. But I want to get back into that. Who here would like to get back into geopolitics, trade, manufacturing, foreign policy, that sort of thing? We covered it a lot, but when the government has their boot on your neck, it really puts you in a position where you feel the need to fight back. And international trade and industry, none of that matters if you don't have your freedom. That's why MCJ Report is so focused on tackling the tyranny of the government, because, I mean, who cares if the government signs a free trade agreement with China if nobody can live their lives unless they participate in medical procedures that they don't want, or you can't even have a party at your home without the government's permission, or things like that. So that's why I'm so focused on the corona situation, because in my view, nothing matters if you're not free. And on top of that, there's a lot of Australian businesses that in the past I would have come in batting for them. Now I won't. SPC is one of them. There's a lot of big Australian corporations that have spat in the faces of their employees, and it's just absolutely disgraceful. So this whole corona situation has really given us all a kick up the backside in terms of our view on what's truly important. Evelyn says you'd like to hear about other countries' handling of the virus. Well, we see Norway handling the virus now essentially the same way they handled viruses from 2019, 18, 17, 16, 15, which is allow people to live their lives, manage their own risks, and be responsible for their own health. And that's all we're asking for here. We don't need the government, okay? The government is the problem. It is not the solution. The solution is allowing people to manage their own risks. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you want to walk down the street wearing a hazmat suit and 20 face masks and scrubbing this and scrubbing that, I don't care. I will laugh at you, but ultimately I don't care. Just stop trying to interfere in how I live my life. And this all ends when we get these busybody, talentless losers out of government, people like Daniel Andrews. Shazza says, what happened to every day? Every day ended up actually not being every day. Thanks, John. That's nice of you to say. Just having a read through the comments here. Yeah, you're right. A lot of these big governments are in absolute cahoots. A lot of these big businesses are in cahoots with the government. Yeah, when it comes to donating blood, we called the blood bank and they don't ask whether or not somebody has been jabbed with the COVID-19 vaccination. So I don't believe that option is actually available. Let's see, what else do we have? When can we vote Dan out? I think it's the end of next year or maybe the start of 2023. I'd have to go and check that. Sharon says you have to follow the money. Yeah, correct. In my opinion, you can understand almost anything in life by following the money. Why does the TGA not provide a comprehensive safety report? And why, instead of providing that comprehensive safety report, does the TGA publish something that really looks like a sales pitch? Is there... Yeah, I mean, come on, read between the lines. There's some major conspiring against the Australian people going on at the highest level of governments and corporations, and we're going to call it out. And I tell you what, they can run, but they can't hide. How about that? Harry says November. There's Harry. How you going, my friend? Always great when I see you in Melbourne. Do you guys like the new system of seeing comments show up on the screen? It was too small last time, and I think I've fixed the problem, although maybe it's not very good quality. Let me know. Do you like seeing comments on the screen, or do you prefer not to see them? Because this is something new that we haven't done before. And I'm also having a look at Rumble. We've got 46 people tuned in on Rumble. So hello to all the Rumble people. Great to have you here. There's Deb there. Great to see you guys. Thank you so much for being here. It's really much appreciated. Lisa says you love seeing the comments. Robin says, are the elections fair? I guess we'll have to find out. I'm putting my hand up for the job. So if you'd like me, from Morgan from MCJ Report to be I mean, it sounds kind of funny, right? I never thought that I'd even consider doing something like this. If you'd like to see me in Parliament, then, well, if I run for the Senate, then wherever you are in Victoria, you'll be able to vote for me. Or in the lower house, then of course it's a lot more focused on the electorate. But hey, I'm simply saying that I'm blessed and fortunate because I've been able to build up this platform via MCJ Report. I'm very lucky and fortunate to have such a wonderful supporter base, and I figure that I'm in a position where I can do it. It's not like my dream in life to be a member of Parliament, but I see it as a service that I can provide, and I view it as a duty, okay? So simply put, I'm putting my hand up, and if the people decide they want me to do the job, I will do the job. If they decide they don't want me to do the job, then I'll keep doing MCJ Report. That's really just, that's just how I see it. Believe me, it's not very appealing to me, the idea of being around these absolute sleazebags every day in Parliament. And the very vast majority of them, they're cowards, they have no backbone, and there's an abundance of people that work in Parliament that will willingly sell out the freedom of everyday Australians, 25 million Australians, just so they can preserve their paycheck. And it's absolutely disgusting. And believe me, there's a lot of people in Parliament that look at someone like me as scum, but I don't care because this is all for Australia. And if you want me to do the job, I'll do the job. And believe me, I'll go in swinging. That's right. I'll go in swinging And I don't care who I piss off, because it's all about our country. The future of our country belongs to we the people. It doesn't belong to the sleazebag politicians or the bureaucrats or these political appointments, whether it's a chief health officer or a chief commissioner. It belongs to us and our children, and we're not going to allow those absolute talentless sleazebags to take it from us. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Patricia. Yeah, that's right. So I'm very patriotic. Have been for a very long time. I love Australia. I love the spirit of our country, the fighting spirit that made our country what it is. I'm very passionate about. So it brings me great joy to see that spirit coming back through the voices of so many who were not politically engaged for so long. I'm also passionate about Australian innovation and manufacturing. I consider it an absolute abomination that our manufacturing and industry has been sold out for decades via trade agreements that over years and years have routinely put foreign interest in front of Australian interests. I consider it an absolute slap in the face to those who came before us that so many in Canberra have sold our sovereignty, industry, land, assets, mining rights off to, for example, China that can be considered a hostile country that has engaged in a barrage of economic attacks on our nation. But is that the fault of China, or is it the fault of our short-sighted politicians who sold us out to China? Okay, I've never declared that China is the greatest threat to Australia. I've always declared that the greatest threat to our country comes in the form of Australian politicians who are willing to sell this country out for their own selfish endeavours, and I've always maintained that. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got Keswick Island in Queensland. A massive chunk of it sold out. So what? The Queensland state government at the end of the financial year can show their books and say, look how smart we are. Look at all this money we made. I mean, on Keswick Island in Queensland, for example, you had a situation where locals couldn't even access the airport because it was controlled by a Chinese corporation. And then what? The Premier of Queensland wants to turn around and say that China has no strategic interest in Keswick Island being in a strategic location along the coastline in close proximity to the Indo-Pacific, where China is setting up one port, one airstrip, and infrastructure projects one after another, right? Infrastructure that could be used for military purposes, and supposedly selling off our coastline to the Chinese Communist Party. Yeah, no problem. No problem. Look how smart we are. We made all this money so that we could subsidize what? Corporations that are introducing mandatory jabs. I mean, there is so much rot going on behind the scenes, and it absolutely needs to be thrown out. It needs to be drained, okay? I tell you what, there's one thing I can't stand, and that is somebody that is a traitor to their nation and the people that make up the nation. So, yeah, this is what I was truly passionate about before the inception of Corona. This is what I was gunning for in 2019 and the start of 2020. But of course, everything I've just mentioned, it still does not matter unless you are free to live your life as a free person. So, but I can't wait to get stuck into these people. My view on business is that there should be an emphasis on investing in Australian innovation and emerging industries. What else would I love to see? I would love to see startup Australian businesses, right? Provided they don't discriminate against people, provided with tax incentives. Who here thinks it would be a good idea for, say, a startup innovative Australian industry to receive, 2 years without corporate tax, without payroll tax? Who here would love to see like a tax-free period in order to incentivize the creation of new industries that have the potential for us to export our Australian inventions all around the world? Instead, what do we see in this country? We see new industries getting bombarded with red tape, taxed to the absolute brink, And more often than not, you have scenarios where many of our nation's best and brightest leave Australia and they take their intelligence elsewhere because they're simply sick and tired of being taxed and abused by the government for their efforts. We don't want them moving overseas. We want them staying in this country, and that's simply my view. How much more beneficial is it if we can incentivize Australian creativity and industry, export our intellectual property around the world, not China because they steal everybody's intellectual property, instead of this traitorous government policy of foreign investment. They call it foreign investment, but more often than not, it's really nothing more than selling us out, privatizing sovereign assets, selling those assets to foreign entities that don't give two damns about our country, allowing Australian businesses to be taken over by foreign entities via the so-called Foreign Investment Review Board that Scott Morrison reckons he's pulled in line, but who knows when it comes to that guy. I mean, the model that we have here for running the economy, in my opinion, it's got to be the most lazy approach, orchestrated by lazy, inept, talentless politicians. Okay, look at this is a big rant here, so I hope you excuse me for making this rant. But when you look at the economic complexity of our country, it resembles that of a third world nation. Okay, our industries have been completely sold out. You've got developing nations around the world that have a broader economic industrial diversity than what we have in Australia. So what do we do here? Well, we dig holes in the ground. We send resources overseas. We don't refine a great deal of those resources, and we sell off huge amounts of our land to foreign interests, even islands and strategic land and ports and all sorts of assets, so that at the end of the day, Australia can just be sold off to the highest bidder. Is that what our diggers fought for? It's an absolute disgrace, the average character that works within the walls of our parliament. That's why I'm putting my hand up. Not because I think that I'm anything special, but I see the average politician in Canberra, and I think I can do a better job than most of these people. And you know what? You can as well. The number one prerequisite, in my opinion, for becoming a politician is you must love this country and the people. And I dare say many politicians couldn't give two damns about our country or the people. So that's why I'm doing it. And maybe you're going to do it too, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm just reading some comments here. Catherine says foreign interests are not our interests. That's right. And there's nothing wrong about sticking up for your country. There's nothing wrong about being patriotic. I mean, I'm very patriotic. I love this country. I love everything about Australia. The only thing I don't like about our country, this is predictable, right? The character of people that work in our parliaments. And to me, it's really, really simple as that. Freedoms, dignity for the people. Okay, give the people what they rightfully deserve: bodily integrity and the right to manage their own risks. Okay, whether it's corona or the flu or anything else. Incentivize Australian industry. Okay, encourage Australian creativity instead of taxing the living daylights out of startup innovative businesses. Give them tax incentives. Okay, I mean, you don't even need to provide huge grants for startup businesses. Just don't tax them. I mean, it's not rocket science. I'll give you an example. In the United States, in the city of Reno, Nevada, okay, Reno, they refer to it as, I think, the biggest little city in the world or something to that effect. Another gambling city, like a much, much smaller version of Las Vegas. Well, Reno was in a lot of trouble, right? Because tourists were not visiting, casinos were shutting down, everybody was going to Vegas, and Reno was turning into a ghost town. So what did the city of Reno do? they offered their empty casinos to start up technology businesses, and they offered these new startups like a 1 or 2 year tax-free window in exchange for operating their business from Reno, and it worked. It worked. This, in my opinion, is the type of thinking we need in our country. All right. What else do I believe? I believe that self-defense is a God-given human right. I believe that every man and woman should have the right to defend themselves if they're faced with some type of attack. I'm a massive supporter in that arena as well. Also oversight. We need more independent oversight in this country, especially when we look at the decisions made, say here in Victoria, in relation to Corona and the policing decisions. For example, the Chief Commissioner of Victoria Police should not be a political appointment. He should be voted in by the people. Also, the Chief Health Officer should be voted in by the people, and Supreme Court justices should be voted in by the people as well. Who here likes the idea of that? Who here likes the idea of voting in these bureaucrats that hold so much power, as opposed to allowing the government of the day to simply handpick these people? Isn't that only fair and reasonable? I mean, judges, chief commissioners, chief health officers, etc., they should all be voted in by us, not chosen by the politicians. Someone said, let's see, the government has stolen from the people. That's right, they have. Georgia says, what's my position on nuclear power? I'll have more to say about that, but I'm very open to it. Very open to it. I think the technology has come a long way. Australia has perhaps the highest, or among the highest, uranium reserves in the world, and we really don't use any of it. We ship a lot of it to Japan, but if we were to capitalize on our abundance of natural resources, I dare say we could formulate a plan for Australia becoming a true dominating force in the world, really a force to be reckoned with. And right now we're not doing that. So yeah, I don't want Australia to just go back to what it was before. I want Australia to be a force to be reckoned with. Okay, a true force on the world stage. So that's my thinking. Yeah. I'm just having a read through. Anna says we pay their wages, so we should get to vote for them. Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. Just Sharon says that you worked in nuclear. Okay, great. Well, you know, we've got an abundance of space in Australia, so what people tend to forget is that we have a massive country. In terms of land mass, Australia is one of the largest countries in the world, and we only have 25 million people. We are one of the least densely populated countries in the world, so there's a lot of space for different types of energy production and secure storage, very far away from coastlines or anywhere that could be prone to earthquakes or anything like that. So I truly believe that there can be a solution. Also, water infrastructure. This is something else that I'm so passionate about, but haven't been able to speak about any of this because of all the bloody tyranny that we've been subjected to. Okay, so Australia is one of the driest countries on earth, but if you were to look at far north Queensland, it's one of the wettest places on earth. And it's just a shame to see all that rainwater wasted. Who here knows about the Bradfield scheme? We need something like that. Of course, politicians haven't been really willing to explore that idea. But if you look, say, throughout our country, whether it's South Australia, New South Wales, Queensland, Northern Territory, we have an abundance of land that with the proper water infrastructure could be cultivated. Okay? So just a thought that has been brewing in my mind. You look at Asia, Southeast Asia, West Asia, Africa, you see tremendous industrialization, you see hugely booming populations. I would very much love for Australia to be at the forefront of agricultural exports to supply some of these booming populations. And with a proper plan for water and cultivation of otherwise barren lands, I don't see any reason why we can not position ourselves very, very highly in that particular industry. Who here likes that idea? I mean, to me, it's just common sense. We've got the land, we've got the water, but what we don't have are people. We don't have people that have vision. That's what we're lacking. Okay, so there's another. I can just sort of talk about these ideas all day, but I think that in this country we need to think big. Okay, we need to think big and bold and recognize that we are the most resource rich and diverse country in the world. I mean, we have very intelligent people here in Australia, thank goodness, and it's time to start acting like it and to be, real heavy hitters. Okay, so, but a big part of that is restoring rights to the people. We can't do any of that unless we're free. Simple as that. Do you guys like the idea of what I'm talking about? Are these the sort of things that you'd like to see brought into Australian political discussion? All I really want is for us to be super competitive and for Australians to have freedoms, a good life, and to be competitive on the world stage, and to not have to adhere to ridiculous policies from the United Nations, etc. So I don't think it's asking too much, right? The further sort of solidifying of our basic rights, freedom of speech, freedom of bodily integrity, freedom of attack and assault, so self-defense, things like that. Cool. This is all common sense. I mean, there's nothing radical about what I'm saying. There's nothing extremist about what I'm saying. Yeah. So, what can I say? You got to put our country first, okay? Maybe some people would say, oh, that's racist. You can't say, there's all sorts of ridiculous things. There's nothing wrong with putting your country first and trying to give your fellow countrymen a hand up. So, all right. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. That's it for MCJ Report for this week. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. It's such a pleasure to be joined by you. I'll be back 8 p.m. Monday, Australian Eastern Standard Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Sydney George will be returning as well. I know that a lot of you miss Sydney George. I miss him too. He's coming back, and that's about it. So lots of love. Thank you so much for being free thinking and supporting this show, and thank you for standing against these absolute tyrants that work within the walls of our parliaments. But guess what? We're going to get these people out one way or another, okay? They don't deserve to be in office. They don't deserve to represent you, okay? You see, when Labor and Liberal, when they conduct their pre-selections, they're not looking for our country's most well-intended. They're not looking for people like you. They're looking for people that will get in line and toe the party line, and those are exactly the types of individuals that should be very, very concerned about losing their jobs. That's right. All right. Have a lovely evening. God bless you all. I'll speak to you soon.
Mm-hmm.